This theater is the best preserved theater in the world, by the way. Aspendos Theater is not the largest, not the biggest theater, but the best preserved theater in the world. Because we still use this theater for shows. We still use this theater for shows. And this time of the year, in autumn, we have shows of, for example, Fire of Antalya or Swan Lake show in here, in this very theater. Okay, please, have a seat. So can you imagine, we're right now sitting at the very seats that the ancient people once sit actually. And this theater is the best preserved theater in the world, by the way. Aspendos Theater is not the largest, not the biggest theater, but the best preserved theater in the world. And this theater remained us from the 2nd century AD, from the time of Roman Empire, from the time of Marcus Aurelius, actually. Marcus Aurelius ordered the construction of this theater. But the architect of the theater is known as Zenon. Zenon was the name of the architect. So this theater is a typical Roman theater, actually. The Roman theaters are generally built on a flat ground, like Colosseum, we can say. This is not a how to say amphitheater, by the way. This is a semicircular theater. Amphitheater is full circular, actually. And on the other hand, there is one more architecture when it comes to the theaters in the ancient times, the Hellenistic theaters. Hellenistic theaters in the ancient times, the Greek theaters, are built on a hillside, actually. On a hillside, and the seats are attached to the hillside, you know? But in the Roman theaters, the theater is built on a flat ground like this, and the seats are supported with the buttresses under them. So this is a typical Roman theater. And the Roman theaters are consisted of 3 parts. The first part is the stage building over there. The main purpose of the stage building is, of course, the preparations and the changing clothes, we can say. The artists were preparing inside for their shows. But also serve as a decoration, we can say. The front facade of the stage building also served as a decoration to the crowd, we can say. You know, you see there are niches inside on the facade. Inside the niches there were sculptures of gods and goddesses, and there were also columns too for the decoration. After the preparations, the artists were using that gate over there, the main gates, come down to the orchestra. The orchestra was the second part. The orchestra was all flat, by the way. There is no this. The orchestra was all flat, and they were performing their shows to the crowd in the orchestra. This was the second part. The third part is where you sit right now, the cavea. This is called cavea. The capacity of this cavea is around 15,000 people, by the way. 15,000 people could fit in here in the shows. The cavea is also separated into parts, of course. For example, there's a corridor which is called diazoma corridor in the ancient times. Of course, this diazoma corridor is to help people to, how to say, fill the theater or empty the theater, because these corridors are opening to the hillsides, actually. So this also helped to the gates, we can say. Imagine 15,000 people are filling and emptying the theater. It must be very hard. There are also stairs which are called torquides in the ancient times. And the lower cavea generally served for more, how to say, noble people, we can say. Maybe you've seen on the way there is a king's lodge right over there, a king's lodge. Of course, in that time, in the time of Rome, there were no kings, there were emperors. But generally, the governor was sitting in the king's lodge over there. There's one more right over here. You can see. The Diazoma corridor.
Like this big seat in the back.
Yes. And I want to ask you a question. You know, I ask a lot of questions to my guests. So, can you imagine that in this theater, if there were any gladiator or animal fights right here? Yes or no? No. Why not?
The protection for the crowd.
Exactly. So you're sitting very close to the orchestra.
Oh, that's right.
So, I'm sorry. If there were any gladiator or animal fights, the crowd can be harmed. That's why in here, no. In here, there were only dramas, actually. But if you visited, for example, Theater of Hierapolis, Pamukkale, have you visited there? In that theater, the orchestra is below the cavea, and there's a protection wall. But even in that theater, there were no real gladiator fights. There were also demonstrations, only demonstrations actually, demonstration fights we can say. In here, it was only dramas. For example, dramas of Homer's Iliad, gods and goddesses we can say, dramas with the masks, like that. I want to show you one more thing. If you look up on the profundity of the, yeah. Can you see the relief over there? Yeah. What does that look like? Maybe a woman? Yeah? So, when the Turks migrated here in 13th century AD, they also created some local tales, we can say, local tales about the area. I'm telling this because the village itself takes its name after the tale, actually, Belkıs, the name of Belkıs. Belkıs is the village of the name, and the girl over there. Let's say girl, for now. So Belkıs, according to Turkish tales, Belkıs was the daughter of the king. And the king said that, I'm going to give my daughter to one that builds the most beneficial building to the city, you know? And there were competitions, and in the finals there were two competitors. And one of the architects was the architect of the aqueducts that we saw before. And the other architect was Zenon, architect of this theater. So the king actually really liked the theater, but he thought that the aqueducts were more beneficial for the city, you know, so he gave his daughter to other architects, according to Turkish tale. But Zenon was tricky. He invited the king to here, to this theater, to show the echo of the theater actually. And the king was wandering alone by himself right over here, and Zenon was hiding behind those arches, they say. And behind the arches, he was whispering to the king, like, give your daughter the Zenon, give your the Zenon. And can you hear the echo? They say that when the theater is empty, you can also hear the whispers in the theater. And king looked around himself, and he saw nothing, no one. And he thought that this message was coming from the gods. And according to tale, he changed his mind and did not give his daughter to Zenon, but cut her into half, they say. And gave one piece to Zenon, the other piece to the other architect. This is a interesting tale. There are like 6 versions of ending in the Turkish tales like this. I'm telling this because this is the name of the village. But this cannot be true because this theater is from the Roman times. So this is actually not a girl. This is a god. Can you do you know who is the god of the theaters? Theaters and wine.
Dionysus.
Dionysus, exactly. Dionysus or Bacchus in Roman name. Yes. So he's Dionysus, the god of wine and theaters. So in the ancient times, when you come here, you don't only watch the shows, but in the meantime, you worship. You know. But what kind of worship? Dionysus was the god of disorder. You know. You don't have to follow any rules. All you have to do is just entertain yourself and drink as much as you can. Drink lots of wine. This was the main worship, actually.
And try not to fall down
try
the
not
stairs.
To fall, but lose control. Yeah, something like that. These were called Dionysus festivals, by the way. Dionysus festivals in the ancient times. By the way, we still use this theater according to the orders of Mustafa Kemal Atatürk. Do you know him? Our nation father. He ordered in 1934 to use this theater, open this to the public. That's why we still use this theater for the shows. Fire of Anatolia, Swan Lake shows, something like that, in the autumn, actually, in the autumn. And you can see the restoration. Yeah, exactly. Restoration pieces over there, the white marble. Those are not original, unfortunately, but those were inserted to welcome more people to the theater, we can say. Or they did this so that people would not fall down, you know, slip and fall down. That's why. But if you want to go upstairs over there,
This is a dead end, but it's really cool.